Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Regan and today I'm going to be talking about everything that I'm going to be reading in January. Now for this month I kind of wanted to go for a bit of a theme. I think I might do like a few themes throughout the year, but I don't want to do it for every single month because I've got a lot of books that I want to read that don't really fit into like certain categories. But for January, I wanted to do Dark Academia, and I'm going to be doing like a Dark Academia video in the later part of the month once I've read all of these and kind of do a bit of a review of each one and talk about my experience with the genre and the books that I'll be reading. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first book that I started reading this month, well technically I started reading it in December, like the last few days of December, was The Picture of Dorian Gray. And I managed to get this gorgeous edition. I've been wanting this for maybe like 4 years, 3-4 years, and I finally got it. I didn't actually start reading the physical book to begin with. I started reading this by audiobook because it's free on Audible, and so I've been listening to it on Audible and also physically reading it a little bit. I'm a bit over halfway through and I'm really enjoying it. It's not a very big book. Oh yeah, it's got the, let me give you kind of a close-up. So that's the front, it's got like an embossed back. If you don't know anything about this book, it's a classic by Oscar Wilde, who's quite a famous classic author. And it's basically about a bunch of rich people living lavishly and being very pompous and like extra. That's pretty much the gist of the book, and like experiencing the finer things in life, and it also touches on things like elitism, classism, and all those kinds of topics. So far I'm really enjoying it. It's really beautifully written, which is kind of the whole point of the book really. Very flowery, so if you don't like that type of writing where it's very flowery, very extravagant, then you won't like this. But for me, I love that type of stuff, especially with like descriptions and people just like in the way that they talk. I just love that sort of stuff, and so I'm really enjoying this one so far. Next up, this is the longest, biggest book of the month, and that is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. As you can see, I've already read quite a bit of it. I plan on finishing this tomorrow. I started this on the 1st of January. It's currently the 7th, so I'm a week into the month, and I'm about 3/4 of the way through-ish, maybe just over. Yeah, I plan on finishing this tomorrow. Really, really thoroughly enjoying this so far. I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about this book before I even went into it, and this is like the OG Dark Academia book, and so I had to pick this one up for this month if I was doing Dark Academia theme. I mean, it's pretty much because of this book that I'm doing this whole theme, because I wanted to read this. So let me just read you the blurb from the book. Under the influence of a charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at a New England college discover a way of thought and life, a world away from their banal contemporaries. But their search for the transcendent leads them down a dangerous path beyond human constructs of mortality. And it's basically about these like group of friends who, I mean, it opens up with a murder, and then about halfway through the book you find out how it happens, and it basically follows these well not teenagers, they're kind of like young adults, as they're leading their very sort of elitist, out of touch with reality, but they basically just do a lot of really messed up stuff and are kind of cool about it. Like, they don't really think twice about it, they're just like in it for the experience, and they're very out of touch people. So it's interesting seeing, especially the main character, he kind of goes into this school relatively normal, and through the course of the book he slowly gets introduced to this world with these other characters, and they kind of twist him until he becomes a lot like them, very cold towards really messed up stuff and not kind of losing his humanity. I don't know how to explain it, to be honest. It's a hard book to describe. I feel like every time I've heard somebody describe this book, I've heard it described differently, and I've never heard somebody describe it in the exact way that it's like to read, if that makes sense. So all I have to say is it's really beautifully written. It's a long book, but it doesn't feel like a long book. Like, I'm flying through this. I think it's the fastest I've ever read a book this length. I am also using the audiobook, which is narrated by Donna Tartt, the author, and she does a really good job with it, to be fair. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, definitely pick this up. If you want anything Dark Academia and you haven't read this, I feel like you probably would have if you're into that sort of aesthetic. Definitely pick this up. It might be one of my new favourite books. Oh, one of the rabbits is here. Hey, baby. He's just kind of lurking. But yeah, if you want something that's very Dark Academia, this is like a perfect book. And next up we have Plato, 5 Dialogues. And this is just like a philosophy book, because I wanted to get into philosophy this year because I'm smart now. She's intellectual. So far, I spent like an hour or so on this last night, and like I literally just started last night, and I only managed to get through the introduction. And I had, because I'm really trying to go into philosophy with the mindset of like interacting with it so that I can digest it properly and like spend a lot of time on it. Even though it's a short book, I could fly through this in like a day or two if I wanted to, but I don't want to do that. I want to like really get invested in it and learn from it. And literally just in the introduction, it's already interesting. And I am journaling now, and part of that I wanted to go into philosophy and use my journal as a way to kind of think about things that are brought up in the books that I'm reading. I will be reading probably a few philosophy books this year, but this is the first one that I'm going into. I don't plan on finishing this month. It's probably going to take me a couple of months to get through, to be honest, to fully digest it. But yeah, so far it's interesting. I mean, I've literally just read the introduction, but I'm looking forward to getting into it. I'm a little bit intimidated because I don't really know what to expect or how it goes, but I am very interested in it. I'm intrigued. So, and next up I will be reading Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is another very popular Dark Academia book. Let me read you the blurb, because I don't really know much about this book, to be honest. I just remember reading a description of it and like seeing people talk about it on TikTok and YouTube, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting, let me give it a go. So, welcome to the Ninth House. Galaxy Alex Stern is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. A dropout and the sole survivor of a horrific unsolved crime. See, it had me at that. I love a good unsolved crime. I love true crime, that sort of stuff. Alex was hoping for a fresh start. Did I really say that? I don't know. But her free ride comes with a catch. She has been tasked with monitoring Yale's secret societies, notorious haunts of the rich and powerful. Now there's a dead girl on campus, and Alex is the only person willing to look deeper, because the societies are far more sinister and extraordinary than anyone ever imagined. They tamper with forbidden magic, they raise the dead, and sometimes they prey on the living. That sounds really interesting to me. I've seen people be a bit divisive about this book. The clouds look really weird. But it does sound really interesting to me. Also, Stephen King said it was good, so, you know, there must be something to it, surely. Although, to be fair, Stephen King puts a recommendation on like damn near every book that's published. So, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into this. To be honest, I'm not going to lie, right? The main reason I got this book is because I saw that the sequel was coming out this month, and I saw the cover for it, and I was like, oh, stunning. And so I was like, I have to get the first book, read it, just so that I can get the second book. Even if I don't like it, I'm getting the second book because of the cover. It's just, ugh. It's so good. I might put like a little picture up here of the sequel cover, but yeah, it looks really good. Also, I like snakes, and it's got a snake on the front. I have 2 snakes, if you didn't know, so I like that. And then next up, I actually have 2 weeks off this month from work, like just over 2 weeks, and so I'm going to use that time to read a lot, which is why I'm being quite ambitious with this TBR, because this is like the most books I will have read ever in a month. I think if I manage to finish all of these, apart from the philosophy one, like I said, this will be like the biggest reading month probably ever for me, as far as like long books and how many books. But yeah, next up we have Babel. Is it Babel or is it Babel? I'm gonna say Babel because I feel like most people say it like that. So I'm going to be reading this. I've also heard a lot of really good stuff about this. This is very Dark Academia from the sounds of it. And it also, I mean, I've already talked about this book a little bit when I bought it, because I did like a little haul. So I'm not going to go too much into it. I'm not going to read the blurb. I read the blurb in that video. But it's basically, again, about university students in like a fictional school, I think, and it sounds really interesting, and I've heard that there are fantasy elements involved in it as well. Really looking forward to it. It's another chunker. It's another thick bitch. So it's going to be a struggle to get through, but I've got 2 weeks off. I feel like I can do it. And then finally, this is the last book that I'm going to be reading this month, and that is If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. Again, I've heard a lot of good stuff about this. Somebody I work with actually said that this is her favourite book ever. And I've seen a lot of people compare it to The Secret History. And I mean, if it is anything like Secret History, I'm gonna love it because I love that book so far. But I've also been told that it's not exactly the same as The Secret History. It's not as similar as people make it out to be. So, we'll see. I mean, either way, I think I'm gonna like it if it's Dark Academia theme, because I seem to be really enjoying that sort of theme and aesthetic. So, I'm looking forward to getting into this. Also, I love the cover, like, can we just take a minute? Look at the gold with the like almost tealish blue. Ugh.
You're a fucking homosexual. You're a DL homosexual.
Also, this is like an illustrated edition. It's not fully illustrated like all the way through with loads of illustrations like the Harry Potter illustrated editions or anything. It's just got these like one-page little drawings every now and then. But either way, it's a really nice looking book that I've heard a lot of good things about. It's Dark Academia themes, so I thought, why not? Might as well pick it up. And that's everything for my TBR for this month. As I say, quite a few books. It's an ambitious one for me, but I think we can do it because I have a couple of audiobooks to help me. I've got an audiobook for The Secret History, Babel, and The Picture of Dorian Gray, so I think I can get through all of these relatively easily. But yeah, that wraps up the TBR. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!